Greetings. Welcome to the Jamaica Diaspora Show. I am here today with my special guest, Mr. Michael Lee Chin, business magnate, financial guru, and the chairman of the National Commercial Bank of Jamaica, and also the CEO and chairman of the Economic Growth Council. Welcome to the Jamaica Diaspora Show.
Thank you very much, Mark.
I wanted to, some of our viewers are aware of the Economic Growth Council. In fact, at the beginning of each show, we mentioned that we are trying to provide the diaspora with information relative to what the Economic Growth Council is doing, which they are very interested to know. But I want to start broad and talk about how Jamaica is viewed as a place to do business, and what are the economic conditions that Jamaica must get right to be competitive?
So, Jamaica today is not viewed as the nirvana for investments. But probably that's the reason why Jamaica would be a good place to be invested in. Because if everybody's going east, you should go west if you want to make prudent investments. So from a professional investor's standpoint, we view Jamaica as meeting three preconditions that are basic if you want to create wealth. The first is there's a difference between perception and reality. That's alive and well in Jamaica. In other words, Jamaica is not viewed as a nirvana, as I said, for investing. But in 2014, the largest deal in Latin America didn't come from Argentina or Brazil or Colombia. It came from Jamaica. It was the sale of Columbus Communications to Cable and Wireless. That was the largest deal in Latin America in 2013, 2014. So the first precondition, which is to create wealth, is that you must invest in places that, where there's a difference between perception and reality. The second precondition to make great investments is that there must be inefficiencies. Because only when there are inefficiencies do you have an opportunity to take whatever is inefficient and make it, at the worst case, less inefficient, at the best case, efficient. And it's in that transformation that there's a huge wealth lift. The third precondition is that there must be a lack of equity capital in the region, in the sector, or the country. In Jamaica, there has been a lack of equity capital. On the other hand, when there is the flip side of those three preconditions will be a road, will lead to a road of no wealth creation. In other words, if everybody has the same information, there's no opportunity for the knowledge arbitrage. The second precondition was there must be inefficiencies. If things are already efficient, there's no opportunity to create wealth. And the third precondition was that there must be a lack of equity capital. The opposite of that is when there's equity capital in abundance, prices are driven up, margins are driven down, and it's very risky to invest. So Jamaica, therefore, based on that framework, has been a wonderful place to be invested in, and hence the reason why in 2002 we bought the National Commercial Bank of Jamaica. The stock price then was $1.60. Today it's $100. That's 60 times, over 60 times in 15 years. Not very many financial institutions in the world would have had that track record.
That preconditions that you mentioned it leads me into my next question about EGC. In fact, I would like for you to please review for the viewers what the EGC's purpose is and why it was formed.
Well, the EGC was formed really because Jamaica historically over the last 40 years, post-independence, has had very little, in fact, probably the worst growth in the Western Hemisphere. Not good. In the last 20 years, over the last 20 years, we have had GDP growth averaging 0.5%. In the last 10 years, 0.2%. Not good. Given all the attributes that Jamaica has in terms of its location, its language, the international language, English, its legal framework, British legal framework, its geography, its natural resources, its people. Given all of those assets, we are disgusted actually by what we have not done to leverage those assets into the strongest country in the world.
So the opportunities are that you have these inefficiencies here.
The opportunity is, therefore, given that we have done nothing with our assets, as demonstrated by the results, 0.2% GDP growth in the last 10 years, the opportunity is now just to use those assets productively, put infrastructure in place, develop a vision for the country that Jamaicans can rally around, and enable and facilitate the enactment, the implementation of everything necessary to realize that vision.
Okay. Now, you talked about the lack of equity capital.
Yes.
Now one of the, there's the issue with the Diaspora Bond, okay? And, bonds are a way of generating capital for particular infrastructure projects, or can you talk about the Diaspora Bond as it relates to our need to raise capital?
Well, the Diaspora Bond would be important for a number of reasons. We need to harness economically and otherwise the power of the diaspora. The diaspora, the Jamaican diaspora, between the first and second generation would number 5.8 million people, which is twice the population of Jamaica. And their per capita income is much more than the per capita income in Jamaica. So there's a huge potential for development of Jamaica through a better relationship with our diaspora brothers and sisters. And there's a huge opportunity for the diaspora members to make fantastic investments. And as I said, I'm relative to, because remember, I'm a Canadian investor, and I invest globally. So I have a global perspective. And I'm saying to you, Mark, of all the investments I've made globally, the ones that I've made with the best adjusted risk return are my investments in Jamaica.
Well, I've known for many years that the Jamaican stock market is one of the best stock markets in the world. I've been aware.
Well, let us clarify that. When we say one of the best, we're referring to the percentage change performance.
Performance-wise.
Performance-wise. Yeah. And it has been, over the last 4 years, as you said, one of the best because prices were so in the doldrums. So you can buy great assets, and you can still buy great assets in Jamaica at relatively inexpensive prices.
Okay. Getting back to the Diaspora Bond and the...
But one moment.
Okay.
We really didn't complete the reason for the EGC.
Okay, all right.
So the EGC was formed, the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, asked me to form and be the chair of this Economic Growth Council. 2, number 1, consult with the population, with the stakeholders, come up with a plan to be and advise the government. So over the last year and a half, we have had over 180 meetings with stakeholders of Jamaica, from the ministries, departments, agencies, public sector groups, trade unions, police force, soldiers, IMF, IDB, private sector groups, NGOs, 180 meetings over. And we collected and collated what we learned into what we refer to as our Magna Carta. It's a call to action, which comprises 8 initiatives and 111 sub-initiatives. Now, from a personal standpoint, the importance of the EGC is twofold: to deliver 5% GDP growth in 4 years from 16 actually. That's by 2020. That's number one. Not only growth, but jobs. That's number one objective. And secondly, we have an opportunity to really create a model for the rest of the world to say, wow, we need an EGC. Because look at the Jamaica experience. They took a dysfunctional bunch of assets, collated this dysfunctional bunch of assets, and look what Jamaica has now produced. So it's an opportunity to develop a model that every democracy in the world will say, we want one of those.
So how are you measuring the success right now?
Well,
how do you measure success here?
It's difficult to measure success when you have a long-term goal, a medium-term goal, because
you have to monitor, you have to track, and you have to see your performance.
Exactly. So we have, with the 8 initiatives and the bulk of the 111 sub-initiatives, we have developed key performance indicators. Firstly, we got together implementers from the different ministries, departments, and agencies. And hitherto now, they all worked in silos. But we had to break down the silos, get them to work and cross-pollinate so it becomes a more efficient situation, break down the bureaucracy, and now give targets and monitor the targets. And by the way, some of our initiatives, for the first time in the history of the IMF, were hardwired into the IMF, the last IMF agreement, the current IMF agreement. So irrespective of which government is in, those initiatives have to be, are monitored externally by the IMF, in addition to us monitoring the milestones as we progress through time.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to my question on the bond, all right, which was the advantages and the disadvantages. This is a proposal that came out of the Diaspora Task Force. So can you speak to the advantages and the disadvantages?
Well, firstly, the Diaspora Bond is important because it's a formal way of connecting diaspora members, alumni, to homeland, to motherland. And the Israelis have done a wonderful job at developing their Diaspora Bond, and which makes that nexus between diaspora and motherland in a financial, economic way. You see, the diaspora, they have an advantage because if we intend to make Jamaica an investment haven, the first concentric circle of investors should be Jamaicans living in Jamaica because they're closest to the action. The second concentric circle of investors should be the diaspora because they're next to the action. Not as close, obviously, to boots on the ground, but next to the action. And then the third concentric circle of investors will be the major global investment community. So the diaspora is important in radiating our investment reach.
So now the diaspora is very interested in this bond. In fact, many of the diaspora want to know when it is going to be introduced.
Well, we are working feverishly. You see, there are some regulatory and securities hurdles that we have to meet. And we just can't go and say, okay, send us your money. We have to have a vehicle in Jamaica, a bond in Jamaica, that is a government. We will start off with a government bond, right? So that there is the imprimatur and the guarantee of the Jamaican, it's a sovereign guarantee. Then we have to deal with how do we distribute in the various countries, Canada, the United States, and England primarily, that bond. We have to have set up agents for distribution, and hence we have to be on side of the various securities regulators.
Do we have an estimate?
We would love, it should have been here by now. So I would say within the next 6 months to 9 months, we should have an issuance.
We're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back with more with Mr. Michael Lee Chin, Chairman of the National Commercial Bank of Jamaica. We'll be right back.
You might know Jamaica as one of the Caribbean's most luxurious destinations for tourism. The birth of reggae music, a happy island with a perfect climate, fresh sea breeze, and organic food. But Jamaica has even more to offer visitors of this scenic sanctuary. Now, one of the top Caribbean vacation destinations is a destination for the highest standard of healthcare, with top-notch services and Ivy League surgeons, where you can access the most effective treatment for your back pain. The Les Institute, Outpatient Spine and Orthopedic Center of Excellence, brings its medical expertise to Jamaica under Harvard-trained Professor Dr. Kingsley R. Chin, who you may know from his interview on Ian Boyne's Profile. The Les Institute champions less exposure surgery, utilizing the least invasive techniques and technologies to achieve the best and most efficient outcomes. Don't let orthopedic and spine pain hold you back. The Les Institute offers you the opportunity to experience world-class care at a world-class resort. Jamaica has been ranked the second most attractive country in the world by the Medical Tourism Index and third most affordable Caribbean vacation destination. So what are you waiting for? Jamaica is proud to collaborate with Dr. Chin and the Les Institute to best accommodate patients during a time of recovery and relaxation. With the advances of less exposure surgery, patients will return to their lap of luxury within hours of surgery and enjoy amenities steeped in opportunities to heal and rejuvenate. Soak in the island vibes in your perfect paradise to begin enhancing your lifestyle forever. Everyone deserves a life free of pain. Don't waste another moment in discomfort. With the Les Institute, you can get to a better place.
And we're back with Chairman of the National Commercial Bank of Jamaica, Mr. Michael Lee Chin. I wanted to get into specifically, there are 3 areas that we discussed relative to the diaspora, the opportunities for investments from the local community, from the diaspora community, from the international community. Can you speak more towards investment opportunities for the diaspora?
Okay, so what I was saying, just to reiterate, Mark, is investment, one will become, investing is a function of confidence, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at confidence in terms of concentric circles, the highest confidence level should be people and institutions in Jamaica, right? Therefore, we would expect the lead to come from local investors and institutional investors, right? And in fact, in so doing, if the local investors are confident, then the next concentric circle out, which would be the diaspora Jamaicans, because of their connection, should be the next level of confidence, and hence the next level of investing potential. And the third concentric circle would be, thereafter, would be just a wider global community. So the diaspora has an opportunity, by virtue of its relationship with Jamaica, to know what's going on, and just having an interest in what's going on, their confidence level to put money in the rock will be much higher than, say, the third concentric circle, which would be the global community. So now we in Jamaica, we have to provide vehicles whereby a Canadian Jamaican, an American Jamaican, an English Jamaican would feel confident that they can put their long-term savings in and it will be well stewarded. That's number one. So we have that responsibility. So the first product will be a diaspora bond, which will you will have the imprimatur and the guarantee of the Jamaican government. Thereafter, once confidence is built, we can have bonds for different or equity investments for different projects. Because as I mentioned in the first segment, there are some wonderful investments that are happening in Jamaica right now as we speak, and I mentioned one. I mentioned two actually. One was NCB. When I bought it, I paid $1.60 per share. In 2002, it's now $100 per share. I also mentioned that Columbus Communications, which is a telecommunications company that basically started in Jamaica, was the largest investment transaction done in 2013 in Latin America and the Caribbean. So there are some, Jamaica has spawned some wonderful investments. Digicel is another one. And we have lots of infrastructure requirements which would which will require investments, period. So the diaspora, given that they have long-term savings, we have to make it easy and make them confident in putting some of their long-term savings in Jamaica, as I have.
Okay. Now, that's very key in that the diaspora, in order to invest, they have to be aware of some of these things that you're telling me now.
Yes.
What has been your communication strategy in embracing the diaspora and making the diaspora aware of these investment opportunities?
To this point, it has been basically nil. To this point, because we have to lay the foundational work before we can go out into the marketplace. We're in that phase of foundational work, structuring, getting regulatory approvals for the first bond. And once we do that, then we will go on a road show. I will go on a road show also and just speak generally about why Jamaica as a wonderful place to invest, as an investor, as an international investor, as a diaspora member, and as a Jamaican. Okay. So I will personally go and just tell my experience.
Okay.
And so that's one, the best advertisement is the testimonial from someone who has actually put their money where their mouth is.
Okay. How can the diaspora groups, and we have many diaspora groups, how can they help you? We're offering support for your efforts, with regards to your communication strategy, with regards to support to the EGC.
Well, firstly, as a diaspora member myself, when I find that the general problem is we are not Jamaica's best ambassador. We, the diaspora members, are not Jamaica's best ambassadors. So we have to, it's easy to speak negatively. It's easy. Right? And it's easy when we meet someone, they say, oh, I just heard about people being shot up in Jamaica, this high crime rate. But it's easy to get drawn into that. But let us look at the facts. How is that relevant to you?
Well, if I'm an investor,
If you're an investor, how is that relevant to you? I'm just speaking now as if you were a diaspora member speaking to an American neighbor, right? You as an American neighbor, you'd be a tourist, and the incidence of criminality against tourists is negligible. In fact, Jamaica is probably one of the lowest in the Western Hemisphere. The incidence against tourists. So we have the crime is mainly gang-related, primarily, or domestic. So if you're not a member of a gang trading drugs or doing lotto scamming or beating up on your spouse, then you have no problems. So we have to be the first responsibility we as the diaspora community have is to be more informed and speak more positively about our country because it's not overrun by criminals. I come here twice per month from Canada and I've never felt insecure. Okay. So that's the first responsibility that we as diaspora members have. The second responsibility is to pay attention to what's going on in Jamaica because as we know, the Jamaican stock market has been one of the best stock markets for growth over the last 3 or 4 years. It would be a crying shame if all of this growth and wealth creation is happening and you, as the next concentric circle, didn't participate. Right. It would be a crying shame.
Well, the crime affects the business environment.
Yes.
And that pushes the interested investors away.
It generally speaking, yes. But when you have, because you don't have people rushing in to Jamaica, hook, line, and sinker, therefore, that's the reason why there are great investment opportunities here. Remember the first concentric circle? The first precondition is there must be a difference between perception and reality. Most people don't see Jamaica as an investment nirvana. Yet still, those of us who have awareness on the ground, we would rather invest in Jamaica than in Canada, or than in the United States, or than in England, because you have better risk-reward potential investments here than you do there, because things are already grossly bidded up in those developed countries.
Can you speak about some of the specific investment opportunities that, for example, medical tourism or medical marijuana?
Easily. Whenever there are issues, the bigger the issue, the bigger the investment opportunity. So you just throw a dart. Infrastructure. What do you want? Roads? Toll roads? We need toll roads. Telecommunications? We need better telecommunications. Energy? We need more efficient, less expensive energy supply. Renewable energy? Financial institutions? Tourism? Services to tourism? Services to resources? All of those are opportunities.
Okay. Now I'm gonna move in.
Agriculture.
Right. Agriculture.
Agriculture. Agriculture is glaring. Agriculture. We have how many? Over nearly 2.5 million tourists, approaching 4 million tourists between over tourists who are staying overnight and cruise visitors. Over 4 million. We have, therefore, a ready-made market to supply the hotels and the cruise ships with produce. But Jamaica is importing to supply the tourist industry and those provisions that are taken on by, if any, by the cruise lines. We're importing the bulk. So there is a phenomenal opportunity in agriculture and a ready-made market. Plus, we have, Jamaica is blessed in that, you think about it, Mark. Blue Mountain Coffee, big brand, ubiquitous throughout the world, known for high quality, being expensive, and I can't get it. Most people, you can't get it. So and those are the three qualities that every business would love to have, right? High quality, expensive, and you can't get it. Every business would love to have those brand associations. Ginger, Jamaican ginger, high quality, expensive, and you can't get it. Jamaican cocoa, high quality, you can't get it. Jamaican other eminent products, Sea Island cotton, high quality, expensive, and I can't get it. So Jamaica is blessed in many ways by virtue of our geography, or soil conditions, or microclimate, or climate, yet still we have not harvested those natural given, God-given assets, opportunities for investors.
Okay. Before I close, I need to ask you about the Jamaica Logistics Hub. You are the chairman.
Yes.
You're responsible for leading that project. Can you talk to us about the progress that is being made?
Well, Jamaica, again, blessed in terms of, if you were to select a country to replicate Singapore, location, Jamaica, in the Western Hemisphere, Jamaica's location is the best for trade. When you leave the Panama Canal, the first country that stares you in the face is Jamaica. Jamaica has the 7th largest naturally protected harbor in the world. The 7th largest. So location plus a natural harbor. Plus, it's right between North America and Central America. Location. Plus, it has a British legal framework, which is the international legal framework. Plus, it has time zone, the best time zone. Plus, it's English speaking, which I've said before. So, Jamaica, in terms of the international hub, again, it's what are you guys in Jamaica doing with such a gem? But you haven't done with it. So now we realize that. And we just don't want, we want to make sure now that we do it right this time.
All right. So as you indicated previously,
yes,
that duplicate Singapore's model.
Duplicate Singapore's model, and we have the Israelis. We have, in fact, we have. I have as a personal consultant to the EGC, Mr. Gideon Sitterman, who was head of the largest port in Israel. He is in fact, he has moved to Jamaica now to make sure that the access and the Israeli experience, and by extension the Singapore experience, we can implement in a way that is that will be successful.
Okay. I have one more question on the hub, and then I'm going to close. The concern that people have spoke about is Jamaica's workforce. If we were to duplicate Singapore's model, you know, how we don't have the level of training in many areas, and we would have to train our workforce at different levels. How is that going to be addressed?
Well, that's a long-term issue, training, because training starts from kindergarten, early education. So it's a long-term issue. It's a long-term issue not only in how we educate, but it's a long-term issue in terms of in terms of socializing our children. But we need jobs right now. So one thought is, if Jamaica has all of these attributes, why wouldn't Jamaica be a great place, which we are, for nearshoring in terms of business process outsourcing, but not just at the call center, which is the lowest level on the pyramid, but for engineering outsourcing, for legal outsourcing, for accountancy outsourcing,
Right.
for securities analysis outsourcing. Why wouldn't we?
That's called knowledge processing.
That's called knowledge processing. The answer would be, well, you don't have that reservoir of trained people yet. Okay, but we have the advantages, the physical advantage of location, time zone, etc., etc., etc. So why wouldn't we go and import the requisite professionals to be able to provision the jobs that we could get? And then that immediately would help us to rebuild our middle class. And then, now that we have an industry going, we can now graduate more students into this reservoir of employment opportunity. Instead of what we now have, we graduate probably 200 engineers per year. And because we don't have a reservoir of opportunities, they all leave. Right? So it's like we're spinning our wheels. Whereby if we could kickstart these industries by importing professionals, and we could now ramp up our universities, because the output from our universities would have ready employment.
Well, Mr. Leachin, I'm going to wind it down, and I really want to thank you. I did want to ask if you could, because you are a role model to many young adults and older adults. Can you offer some of your wisdom and knowledge as for those that are aspiring entrepreneurs or aspiring professionals?
Yes, and there are three principles that are near and dear to me. They're not only principles, they're dogmas to me. The first is, one cannot be intergenerationally successful unless one operates one's life based on sound principles, framework. Second is, one has to be able to control one's emotions. So the only way to control your emotions is to have a framework that is like your value system, your culture. And anything outside of your value system, your culture, you get an allergic reaction, you get the shakes. So you always maintain that plumb line. Because when you have a decision to make, you go back to your default, back to your principles, your framework. So that's how you control your emotions. Most people don't control their emotions, so they're arbitrary in terms of how they make decisions, because they don't have a culture, a value system that is their religion. And the third is, we have to have access. We can't be successful in any aspect of our lives unless we have access. And one of the jobs that my generation, has to do as a responsibility to the next generation is to make sure we give the next generation access to financing, access to values, access to education, and access to opportunities and jobs.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity, Mr. Leachin.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming on to the Jamaica Diaspora Show. We look forward to you when you are out in the diaspora communicating what your next steps are.
Thank you very much for facilitating this, Mark.
Okay, and that's it for the Jamaica Diaspora Show.